Last week I just happened to be watching some television and flipping around, and I decided to check out CNN for some reason. I don't know, you wouldn't expect any journalism to actually be an activity there, but might as well just check it out to verify, and I managed to click right on this segment on what I found out later was a new show with a new CNN host, Erin Burnett. It was a piece about Occupy Wall Street, so I braced myself. As it turned out, it was even worse than I expected.
And now for a story that made us say, seriously?
The title of this segment is Seriously? Seriously? I mean, what level of discourse are we trying to convey here? What demographic are we trying to appeal to here? Was the 13 to 18-year-old demo really that important to you? Really?
Really? Really? This has been really with Seth.
The Occupy Wall Street protest entered its third week today. What started as less than a dozen college students camping out in a park near the New York Stock Exchange is now hundreds of protesters, and it's spread to other cities. But what are they protesting? Nobody seems to know.
Really?
No one knows what it's about? This is someone who works at what should be a premier news network, and she has no idea what Occupy Wall Street is about, and apparently has no way of figuring it out. Strangely, a simple internet search turns up some things. That's funny, there's a Wikipedia page. Weird, there's also a website and a Facebook. From the Wikipedia. In mid-2011, the Canadian-based group Adbusters Media Foundation proposed a peaceful occupation of Wall Street to protest corporate influence on democracy, address a growing disparity in wealth, and the absence of legal repercussions behind the recent global financial crisis. And a quote from Glenn Greenwald, does anyone really not know what the basic message is of this protest? That Wall Street is oozing corruption and criminality, and its unrestrained political power in the form of crony capitalism and ownership of political institutions is destroying financial security for everyone else. I'm willing to bet a sixth grader could have done a pretty good job of explaining all of this for a current events assignment. But if it was not already painfully obvious that Erin was not interested in getting to the reality of the situation, it would be driven home with a sort of disgusting arrogance that is further enhanced by what is either pure ignorance or simply intentional deception.
So this afternoon, we went to Wall Street to find out. And despite what you heard, here's what I saw. It's not just a bunch of dancing hippies protesting. There are all kinds of people there. Babies, teachers, cheerleaders, Uncle Sampta, and that. Seriously, it's a mixed bag, but they were happy to take some time from their books, banjos, bongos, sports drinks, catered lunch. Yeah, there was catered lunch. Designer yoga clothing. That's a Lululemon logo. Computers, lots of MacBooks, and phones to help us get to the bottom of it. This is unemployed software developer Dan. What do you do for a living?
I'm a software developer.
Software developer.
Yes.
So currently employed or unemployed?
Unemployed.
Unemployed.
Unemployed, we like to call it.
Unemployed.
It's called Occupy Wall Street.
So do you know that taxpayers actually made money on the Wall Street bailout?
I was not aware of that.
They did. They made, not on GM, but they did on the Wall Street part of the bailout.
Okay.
Does that make you feel any differently?
Well, I would have to do more research about it, but
If I were right, it might.
Oh, sure.
Seriously? That's all it would take to put an end to the unrest. Well, as promised, we did go double-check the numbers on the bank bailout, and this is what we found. Yes, the bank bailouts made money for American taxpayers right now to the tune of $10 billion, anticipated that it will be $20 billion. Those are seriously the numbers.
Really?
Oh, wow, that's great. We should just let Wall Street bring the financial system and the economy to the point of complete collapse, which is what we're doing now anyway, all the time. That way we can bail them out with billions of dollars and make more money off of them. The TARP was only one aspect of several instruments used to avoid financial collapse. The Fed loaned and continues to loan money to the big banks at 0% interest. They then buy treasury bonds that pay out at 4% or thereabouts. Know what that means? They're paying us back with our own money, you ridiculous asshat. But it actually gets even worse than that. Mrs. Burnett is entirely focusing on the bank support programs feature of the TARP package. AIG is, of course, directly tied to the banks, and that alone is still $50 billion in the red. Did you do any research at all? Have you been paying attention?
Wall Street was just a shorthand for the financial institutions. The banks are bigger and richer than before. Corporate profits are reaching record levels, and for much of unemployment is about the level of the Great Depression, real unemployment. These people are saying, no, let's blame the culprits and the institutions behind them. So fiscal policies like taxation, rules of corporate governance, deregulation, and so on. It does set in motion a vicious cycle which is getting worse and worse.
Can you pin down exactly what would keep investors happy, make them feel more confident?
That's a tough one. Personally, it doesn't matter. See, I'm a trader. I don't really care about that kind of stuff. I go with what if I see an opportunity to make money, I go with that. So for most traders, it's not about we don't really care that much how they're going to fix the economy, how they're going to fix the whole situation. Our job is to make money from it. And personally, I've been dreaming of this moment for 3 years. I have a confession, which is I go to bed every night. I dream of another recession. I dream of another moment like this. Why? Because if you have the right plan to set up, you can make a lot of money from this. For example, hedging strategies is one.
Yeah, that's a big one, sir. And it will just continue because our politicians are bought and paid for. But what about Erin? Why is she engaging in this disgusting smug display? Who is Erin Burnett?
The Republicans are not doing that. The Republicans are not behaving the way they did when FDR came into office during that depression.
He did, though, put through a soak the rich tax, which would hardly be a moniker that would create, people working together. I mean, I think what's interesting to your point...
Why shouldn't we soak the rich? They're the ones who did incredibly well. They're the ones who sucked all this money out of the system in the last decade. They're the ones who do get most of this blame. It is Wall Street that's responsible for this. And what I see now, Wall Street, they don't want to hear all this soak the rich. They want to make it about a war on the rich. They want to put the blame on the government, especially this one that's been in office for 45 days.
Right.
It wasn't just Wall Street. Wall Street was a big part of the problem, but it was everybody. It was an attitude of give me what I want now, and I don't have to pay for it. And that went through all of society. And it's become now that it's unacceptable to say that we always have to find just a few people to blame. And that's not accurate.
But the difference is that, yes, the average American person who took this, who couldn't afford a mortgage and took it, he bears some responsibility. But he's not an expert in finance.
On your taxes, though, you look at the top 5% of Americans pay 60% of the income tax. Now, that's a progressive tax system, and that's the way our country chooses to operate. But when you look at where the wealth destruction has happened, you've had more than $30 trillion of wealth evaporated around the world. And the people who have taken that hit already, you've already soaked the rich. Because that's who's lost that money.
Excuse me, I think that's
and I agree.
It is amazing when you listen to so much of the commentary out there that it focuses on bonuses or private jet use or also just that they're not lending. None of these things really are the real issue here. The rise in populism, though, has been amazing. I mean, just the rhetoric out of Barack Obama and Joe Biden this week, that they use the word shameful and outrageous to refer to Wall Street practices. That it isn't choosing Main Street versus Wall Street. That is a completely false choice that is being put out there. The taxpayer money is not being used to pay the bonuses. I think people could understand if you work for a company, right? If the three of us worked for a company, you're guests, and I lost $10 billion. But Steve over there, he made $1 billion. So overall, the company actually loses money. But Steve went and did his very darndest for that company, and he made money. So should he be paid for his work? That's essentially what we're talking about here, and reasonable people could argue about this, but many reasonable people would conclude, yes, he should be paid for that. And I think, David, you've raised a fair point, which is maybe it's the whole use of the word bonus. If you explained to people this is how they are compensated, that might make a difference. But there's also a fundamental misunderstanding. The taxpayer money isn't being taken and paid out in the form of bonuses. It goes in a separate pool, shall we say, a separate account for banks. So maybe people don't care about that distinction, but it is there.
Are you doing a TV show? Is that what's going on? Seriously?
Really?
So, in effect, Erin is not a journalist at all. She is a complete shill and apologist for the big banks, and that is what her entire career is based on. It is just unfortunate that there are not enough in the mainstream media to counter her idiocy, and she has successfully spread her nonsense to millions of people. It's bad enough that our government is so completely corrupt with so many representatives bought and paid for, but what may be worse is that the media seems to be completely in on the scam. It's up to you to find the truth.